She wasn't supposed to look at me like that. Not after all this time. Not after the cap and gown, the forgotten essays, the years that passed like background noise. But there she was, Professor Hart, in front of me again, holding a box too heavy for her wrists and pretending it wasn't. I hadn't planned to come back to this town. And definitely not to this bookstore. It was one of those crooked little shops near campus. Warped floorboards, always a smell of old paper and tea bags. I stepped in because of the rain. That was all. And then she said my name like it never left her mouth. Eli. I turned. She was in flats, cardigan sleeves rolled, hair messier than I remembered. A thin strand tucked behind her ear too late. But it was her. Didn't think I'd see you again, she said, breathless, not from surprise. From the box she tried to lift on her own, always too proud to ask. I laughed. I didn't think you'd remember me. She just raised an eyebrow, the same way she used to when someone tried to bluff through a paper they didn't write. Oh, please. You sat in the front, always scribbling notes. I thought you were going to write my lectures better than I could. I probably tried. That made her smile real reluctant, like it snuck up on her. I'd forgotten how good she looked when she didn't smile on purpose. Help me move this? She asked, stepping aside. Of course I did. I always would. We worked in quiet, mostly. I followed her down a narrow hallway into a back room I hadn't noticed. There were boxes stacked to the ceiling. Dust in the air. A lamp with no shade flickered weak yellow. She leaned against the table, exhaling, watching me. You stayed local? I asked, wiping my hands on my jeans. I stayed where I felt unfinished, she said, then looked away. That's vague. Forget it. I didn't. I just let the silence hold it. I could feel something in the air. That strange, invisible thing that happens right before a line gets crossed. When both people know but pretend they don't. I didn't know what to say. And she knew too much to say anything at all. She cleared her throat. Still taking notes? She asked, glancing at the little notebook I always carried. Something she'd teased me about years ago. Sometimes, I said. You taught me to pay attention. She laughed under her breath. That sounds dangerous. And then she said it. Like it slipped out, or maybe she rehearsed it for years. Still taking notes? Or want to teach me something? I froze. She hadn't moved. She wasn't flirting, not really. But her eyes held mine too long. Her fingers rested on the edge of the table, knuckles pale, like she was holding herself still. There was that pause again, a silence that felt too aware. I stepped forward, maybe too close. She didn't back away. Didn't blink. The lamp buzzed, the box cutter on the table between us. A soft breeze from the vent shifted her hair. And I said the one thing I probably shouldn't have. What if I've been waiting to? She didn't answer. Not with words. Just a look, wide-eyed, unguarded. Then her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but forgot how. She looked away first. Maybe that should have ended it. That single flick of her eyes, the way she straightened her back, tucked her hands into her cardigan sleeves like she hadn't just said what she said. But it didn't end. It just paused, shifted. Sorry, she muttered, forcing a laugh that didn't quite land. That came out weird. I nodded, but didn't say anything. My tongue felt heavy. She pulled open another box, rustling through books, mostly avoiding my eyes. And I noticed the way her fingers trembled. Just barely. She wasn't some fantasy. She was human, nervous, maybe even embarrassed. And somehow that made everything worse. Or better. I haven't seen you in 5 years, she said suddenly. You still write. Sometimes. You were good, she added softly. I remember things like that. I studied her in the dim backroom light. Her blouse had a button undone near the collar, like she got dressed fast and forgot. There was a faint coffee stain on her cuff. Her hair, pulled back with a clip, had started to fall free, soft wisps along her jaw. She looked tired and beautiful. I caught myself staring. You don't have to help, she said, eyes still on the books. I know this is probably weird. I don't mind, I said. Besides, I think we passed weird 5 minutes ago. That made her smile again, smaller this time, almost sad. She picked up a paperback, flipped it over absently. I don't usually do this. Be this. She let the sentence hang. Forget it. No, I said. You can. She looked at me then. Really looked. My husband left 2 months ago, she said finally, voice thin. Not for anyone. Just left. I didn't move. Didn't pretend I didn't hear her. Just listened. I keep working, teaching, smiling at students. But some nights I forget where I put the keys and I cry in the laundry room. And I don't even know why I'm telling you this. I exhaled slowly. I used to wonder what your life looked like outside class, I said. It's strange, hearing it now. She didn't answer right away, just nodded, her eyes softening. Some mix of gratitude and shame. Maybe I should have stepped back then, said something safe, offered a polite goodbye and left with my hands in my pockets like none of this meant anything. But I didn't. You want me to go? I asked, the words catching before they left my mouth. There was a long beat. Her gaze dropped to the floor, then back to me. No, she said. Stay. Just stay for a bit. She reached for a book on the top shelf, too high. I moved without thinking, stepped behind her, close enough to brush her shoulder. My hand went to the spine just above hers. She didn't move away, didn't breathe. My fingers lingered, barely touching hers. I almost said her name. She didn't step away. That was the part one kept circling back to. Even as I handed her the book and stepped back, even as she let it rest between us like it was just another item, another errand. She hadn't moved, hadn't flinched, and neither did I. She sat on the edge of a wooden chair in the corner of the cluttered room, holding the paperback like it weighed more than it did. I stayed standing, hands shoved in my jacket pockets, pretending to look around, pretending I wasn't noticing every tiny thing. Her wrist had a faint mark from her watch. Her nail polish was chipped on one finger. Her necklace was slightly twisted, resting just left of center. You ever wonder, she said after a long silence, what you might have missed if you'd done one thing differently? I turned to her. All the time. She nodded. Me too. And then she looked up, not with guilt, not even with apology, but with that same strange, dangerous honesty that cracked through her just enough to show the person underneath. I used to think about you, she said, like she was daring herself to admit it. Not like that. Not really. Just how focused you were. Like you were waiting to get out of something, or into something, and you didn't know which. I swallowed. Hard. I didn't think you noticed me at all, I said. She laughed. Quietly. God. You're kidding, right? No, she stared at me for a second, lips parted slightly, like she was about to say something more, or ask something she shouldn't. And then buzz, the sharp vibration of her phone on the table cut through the moment. She startled. We both did. She reached for it fast, glanced at the screen. Work, she muttered, silencing it without answering. Her hand lingered on the phone a beat too long. You should get that, I said. She shook her head. They'll manage. I'm off today. But the spell was broken. The room felt colder suddenly, the silence heavier. I stepped back, palms to my thighs, like I was trying to ground myself. This is a bad idea, I said under my breath. Maybe to her. Maybe just to the ceiling. Which part? She asked, standing up slowly. All of it. And I meant it. I did. But I didn't move toward the door. I didn't grab my bag or make some clean, adult exit. Instead, I looked at her again, really looked, and she was already looking at me. We stood like that, caught, as the room seemed to hold its breath. Her fingers toyed with the edge of her sleeve again. Mine curled into fists. I should go, I said finally. But then she did it, the smallest thing. She reached out, fingers brushing my wrist. Just barely. Or you could stay 5 more minutes, she said. Her voice was steady, but her thumb trembled against my skin. And I didn't pull away. Her fingers were still on my wrist. Light, barely there. But it was enough. I should have stepped back. Said something neutral. Thanks for the tea. Good seeing you. Hope the bookstore turns out okay. Instead, I stood there like an idiot, like a man trying not to want something. She exhaled, slow. You don't have to pretend. Pretend what? My voice cracked slightly. That you didn't feel it too. I looked away, then back again. I wanted to lie. I wanted to keep this simple. But I couldn't. Not now. I don't know what to do with it, I said. With this. This? She repeated, more to herself. God. She let go of my wrist and turned. One hand on the back of the chair like she needed to touch something solid. I used to pride myself on boundaries, she said. I was good at being who I was supposed to be. Until lately. You're still that person, I said. She turned sharply, eyes on mine. Then why can't I stop thinking about what your hand felt like on mine? The words hung between us like smoke. I didn't flinch, but my throat went dry. I don't want to be a mistake for you, she said. Her voice was softer now. You have a whole life ahead of you. This me. I'm just... Don't do that, I interrupted. She froze. Don't shrink yourself like that, I said, stepping closer, my voice low. You're not a mistake. You're not leftover. Her lips parted slightly, as if that word cut more than she expected. Leftover. I can't think straight when I'm near you, I admitted. And I keep trying to convince myself this is just nostalgia, or loneliness, or curiosity. But it's not. Eli, I think about your voice when I'm writing, I continued, almost like it was pouring out now that the dam cracked. I remember the way you used to lean over my desk, the way you made everything feel like it mattered. No one else has ever looked at me like that. She didn't speak. Her chest rose and fell. Eyes glassy but not crying, just too full. Then, almost a whisper, I'm scared of what this would mean. So am I. Her hand brushed my arm again, but this time it was deliberate. No pretending. Her thumb rested there like she was trying to remember the shape of me. She stepped closer, inches away. I could feel her breath, smell her perfume, something warm, faint, like sandalwood and old books. And then came the silence, loaded, tight, neither of us blinking. She looked up at me, and then very quietly, she asked, If I kissed you right now, would you stop me? If I kissed you right now, would you stop me? I should have answered. Instead, the question just echoed, in my ribs, in the pit of my stomach, in the silence that followed. She didn't move. Her eyes searched mine, waiting, steady but not cold. She was giving me the choice. And for a second I leaned forward, just a breath's distance. And then, Mom! The word snapped through the room like a whip. I jolted. So did she. We turned fast to the door. A teenage girl stood in the hallway, frozen. Hoodie half-zipped, backpack slung off one shoulder. Wet hair. Confused, wide-eyed stare flicking between us. She blinked slowly. You said you were working late, the girl said. Her voice was flat, but not angry, not yet. Just brittle. Professor Hart. Emma stepped back like she'd been burned. Claire, she breathed. I didn't hear you come in. I thought you were with your dad this week. Claire's eyes narrowed slightly. Change of plans. No one moved. I swallowed. My mouth suddenly tasted like metal. I recognized her now vaguely. A few years younger than me. I'd seen her once on campus at some faculty dinner. I hadn't made the connection. Not until now. She looked at me, and then to her mother. Who is he? Emma didn't answer right away. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Her hand gripped the chair behind her like it was the only thing holding her upright. I used to be her student, I said, stepping in. My voice cracked, but I forced it steady. That's all. Claire stared. Right? Of course. Then, are you sleeping with him? Claire, Emma said instantly. Not with anger, with panic. Stop. It's not like that. Does Dad know? Claire snapped. Is that why he left? Emma's face dropped. It was instinct, stupid and protective, but I took a step forward. This isn't her fault. Claire shot me a look sharp enough to cut glass. Don't act like you know anything about us. I don't, I admitted. But don't punish her for being human. That word, human, landed hard. I saw it in both of their faces. Claire shook her head. I'll be upstairs. She turned without another word. Footsteps hard on the stairs. Door slamming a few seconds later. The quiet that followed was thick with things that couldn't be undone. Emma sat down slowly. Her hands were in her lap now, clenched. I didn't plan for any of this, she whispered. I thought I had more time before everything got messy. You don't have to explain, I said, stepping closer. She didn't look up. Yes, I do. And then, without meeting my eyes, she said, I knew who you were before you walked in. Silence. Loaded again. But different now. I knew who you were before you walked in. She didn't look at me when she said it. Just stared at the floor like it might open up and swallow the moment. You remembered me? I said quietly, more breath than voice. Emma nodded once. Not just remembered. Then she looked up, slow, deliberate. Eyes red around the edges. I recognized you the second you stepped through the door. I always wondered where you ended up. What you'd become. You didn't say anything. She almost laughed. Because I thought I could handle it. Thought I'd be professional. That I could see you, thank you for lifting a box. And forget it. But then you looked at me like that. Like what? Like I wasn't invisible anymore. That landed harder than I expected. I've been trying to hold it together for so long, she continued. The marriage, the job, the nights no one asked how I was. It's easier to be useful than to be wanted. I didn't just want you, I said. I stopped myself. The words stalled at the edge of my throat. Not because they weren't true, but because I wasn't sure which version of her I meant them for. The woman in the classroom years ago, or the one breaking in front of me now. She stood up, slowly, like her bones ached from the weight of it all. You need to know, she said, voice quieter now, steadier, that whatever this is, it comes with consequences. Not just for me, for Claire, for you. I won't be someone's secret. You never were, I said. Even when you didn't know. The air shifted, softer, heavier. We stood in that worn little room, books still unpacked, her daughter upstairs behind a closed door, and something unspoken stretching between us. Not lust, not impulse. Something messier, more permanent. I'm not asking for a fairy tale, I said. I'm not asking you to undo everything. But don't walk away from something just because it's complicated. She didn't move. Then, almost too softly, do you want this, Eli? I want you, I said, even if I don't know what that means yet. She reached for my hand. Not rushed, not trembling this time, just present, certain. And I let her. We stood there like that, fingers entwined, breaths finally sinking, the tension still there, but changed. It wasn't about crossing a line anymore. It was about choosing not to keep circling it. I can't promise this will be easy, she said. Good, I said. Easy never taught me anything. She smiled. For real this time. And then, somewhere upstairs, a door creaked open. We didn't let go. Claire didn't come back downstairs that night. Emma offered to explain, to smooth it over, to try. But I told her not to. Some things don't untangle in one night. Some things need time and silence and slammed doors. The important part was this. She didn't let go of my hand. Not even when I said I'd leave. Not even when I told her she didn't owe me anything. You don't have to fix all of it, I told her. You're not a broken thing. She didn't cry. She just nodded. Like she'd been waiting years to hear someone say that and actually mean it. I didn't sleep that night, not really. I walked the streets a while, ended up at the old campus library, just to see if it still smelled the same. It did. The next morning, I opened my notebook again. The first line I wrote was, "Sometimes the person you never really had becomes the one you stop running from." Took 2 weeks before I saw her again. She met me at the park. No makeup, coffee in hand, hair in a loose knot like she didn't try to be anyone but herself. Claire had gone to stay with her dad for a while. No drama, just space. We sat on the bench for almost an hour before she said anything. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "No," I said, "but I'm not scared of it anymore." That made her laugh, small, grateful. "I thought maybe you'd disappear." "I thought about it," I admitted. "Then I realized I'd just keep ending up outside your door again." She leaned her head against my shoulder after that. No one looked. No one cared. But it mattered. To us. Now we're slow. She teaches. I write. Claire visits. There are tense dinners, awkward silences, still some bruises where the past pressed too hard. But it's real. Honest. It's not perfect. But it's ours. I don't look at her the way I used to, like she was unreachable. I look at her like she's beside me, present, chosen. And she looks at me like I'm not just some young mistake she almost made, but the person who saw her when everything else fell apart. She once told me regret can make you lie to yourself, that it tells you to stay quiet, to keep things buried. But I think longing teaches you something else. Longing teaches you where home is. And sometimes home is a bookstore on a rainy day. Sometimes it's a woman who used to grade your essays. Sometimes it's a silence you finally decide to speak into. And sometimes it's just her voice, late at night, saying, "Still taking notes?" And me answering softly, "Only when it's about you."